And I remember it perfectly as we dropped my grandmother off at the bus station.
Ninyishuka kurungi kutwarugire omubasi twasiga mukaka aha omubasi uzira parking.
Looking outside that back glass
kunarebire aheru aho za basi zira parking aheru
and seeing the person that I saw as my mother get further and further away.
Nareba omuntu bari kugira ngo ni mawe.
So from that point on,
kwihobwe
I had to adjust somehow with this new family, with the new language and with the new culture.
nagezaho kugira ngo nkatwaza nko kubaratwaza mu rurimi rusa nekansya abantu abuntari kumanya.
Now for some time it took me a while to adjust to calling my mother mother.
Kikantwarira obwire okweta omukazi ogwe mawe atari mawe.
And at one point I remember getting mad at her
izoba rimwe nangwa ndijuka nkamutabukiraho
and telling her, I'm going to tell my mother on you.
namugira ntaziwa ninza kuhababiro wa mawe.
And I said, wait a minute, you're my mom, right?
namugira kareba orinzireho kake tokabagaho mawe.
And so there was a lot of confusion in my mind regarding all of this.
aho haza hakatabanguriko kinje mu bitekateeko byeye nebyo byabire naraba.
My stepfather
ishewe yo taramuzara
never treated me like his daughter.
tiyamutwizemu nkamuhara wari kuzara.
And I'm saying all of this
ndikugamba ebi byona
because from the beginning there was always a rejection.
ndikubereka ku rugo kutandika haturagaho okwangwa.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of you have felt that spirit of rejection.
kandi nimpamyo muri mwe mbingi mwine ogwo mwoyo gwo kwangwa.
And as I got older,
kunakuzire
I was told about what happened with my father.
bangambira ekyabire hari tata.
And my mom and stepdad didn't have the greatest relationship.
ogwe mawe otari mawe na tata otari tata bakaba batine kazare kakwate kamani.
And I was told, then my mom tells me, well, I married him to give you a father, so basically it's your fault.
Lero mawe chinzara yanja nkashwerwa mushijo gori kunchira kugira ngo katunga shu.
And so there were a lot of times, my mom had a lot of anger in her, and I don't know if it's because of what she went through with me, but she would take it out on me. And her favorite phrase to tell me was, you're good for nothing.
nyina weye akaba ino busasi munonga habo kugira ngo akaraba mu mbera eri kumuhata ari kuza kumuzara so ekigambe kinyina kimuzara yabire namugambira akana mugira ngo uri bushi.
That is something I would hear constantly.
ekyo kumujya to ine mugasho uri busha mbwenu nico yaturana nico yabaga nahurira buri zoba.
And there were times that I really, really believed that.
kandi hariho bwire kuba bamugambira ngo uri busha ayikiriza ngo nawe ni bushi.
Now, as I got older,
ko yakuzire
I was treated differently by my stepfather.
ishe otari isho ri kumuzarira kimwe ya mutwaza mwe twaze ndijo.
I had two sisters that came after me.
akaba ine ba sisters babiri abazirwe bwa nyuma yeye.
And he would treat them differently than he treated me.
kandi bo akaba twazo kwabo nogwa mutwazo kweye.
I would get sent to see my grandparents in the summer, and I would be so excited.
kuyatungaga hakira kaza kureba banyine nkuru ahura yaruhukwa yashemererwaho.
However, when I would come back,
hati kuyagarukaga waba abazire batari abazire beye bonyine.
I would see pictures of my mom and stepdad with my sisters.
akaba nareba nyina we yakimuzara nisho tari kumuzara hamwe n'aba sister beye babiri.
That they had gone on vacation without me.
ngubo bagire nkaheru kwehamu bamusiga ati bagenda nawe.
When it came time for gifts,
bayikobwire bwo kuha ebiconco
for birthday or Christmas,
bakaha ebiconco byo wazarwa ryari ninga nohiri.
I would always get something different than they did.
we bakaba bataramuhe kirashwana na babana babiri.
And I remember my mom and stepdad arguing over that.
Ndijuka mawe na tato tari tata barakitonganira.
Now, if I fast forward to when I was 20 something,
kuyakize emyaka nkabiri n'otundi
it's in that time where you're trying to figure out who you are.
nibwo bwire buratandika kwejumbura iwori ki.
And I started to think I was a mistake.
natandika kutekereza ngu nyowe nkabawoshana n'enshobi kabe enshobi.
I wasn't made from love.
nyowe tibantwire ngu bantwara kuruga muri rukundo.
I brought shame.
nkaretwa ekishwaro ahaka.
This is good though, because a lot of times I think I've overcome that, but sometimes it still hurts a little.
bishemwe ngo nikishashana munonga obwire obwinshi nitekereza ngo ekintu ndyakisingura konka nikishashana kwari kwijuka ebyari kubagambira.
So for the longest time,
kumara obwire bulingwa
I kept thinking, why am I here?
nguma nitekereza bitu habwenshi ndyaha.
Now, as time progressed,
obwire ko bwagumizemu nibweyongera misho.
when I met the Lord,
kunabugabugine mukama Yesu
I started to know who I was
natandika kumanya
in
ekindi
Christ, and that I am not who other people say that I am,
nagira ngo nyowe tindi ekyabantu bari baragamba ngundi
but I am who He says I am.
ndi eki Kristo aragira ngundi.
That I am more than a conqueror.
ndi omusinguzi n'okukiraho.
I am a beloved daughter of the Most High
nge
God,
nkundwa akazi ya ruhanga rukirabona
and I was knitted in my mother's womb by Him.
kandi niwe yantira mu nda ya mawe.
Now, that has become a verse that I really enjoy reading because it talks about, it's Psalm 139:13.
Zaburi 39 urw'ikuminishatu.
Because it says, for you formed me
nagira ngu akakuhanga
in my inward parts, you covered me in my mother's womb.
yamushereka omunda ya nyina.
So now I know
hati nimanya
I was not a mistake.
tindi kigwererezi tindi nshobi.
And
Ndi
that
musomo.
despite I am fast forwarding a lot of different things that happened
nangwa oyihira ebyo bintu byona ebyabireho
that I may share later,
ebindaze kubagabaganaho omu bundi budakika.
but I am grateful for the journey that has brought me here.
ninsima munonga habwo orugendo rwampisaha ndyohurire
Because it has given me a softer heart
habwo kuba kyampereza omutima ogworobi
for people that feel rejected
habwo abantu abarahurira bangirwe
or feel that they are no good.
obo baratekereza bo ngu tihine kibali barye ntakimazire.
And if I can share the fact that a lot of times, especially when your own
nahurira obwire obwingi nk'abazire bawe bakugambira ebigambo bibi nk'ebyo
you believe it,
n'obyikiriza
and it's replacing those thoughts
kandi bihindura ebyo biteekateeko
with what God says,
ebihindura ebiteekateeko n'ekiruhanga aragamba
because what He says is truth.
habw'okuba ekiruhanga aragamba n'amazima.
And in the Isaiah, the beauty for ashes,
ko ku Isaaya iragamba okwiha omwiju akakujweka obulungi.
for me it's truth for lies,
harinye n'amazima.
because we get told lies
nomanya abantu bingi nibatugambira ebishuba
and what He says is truth.
kandi ekiruhanga aragamba n'amazima.
Now the biggest problem is in between our ears, our mind gets in the way
ekizibu ekihango kiri hagati y'amatu gitu n'ebiteekateeko byitu
and tells us lies.
leero bikitugambira ebishuba.
And we know that that is the enemy because he comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
kandi tumanya ngo gwe n'omuzigo habwokuba omuzigo areetwa kwiba kwita n'okucwecereza.
He wants to kill your faith.
Nayenda ngu ayite okwikiriza kwawe.
He wants to kill your trust.
Arenda ngu ayite okwesiga kwawe.
He wants to steal everything that God has for you.
Nayenda ngu ayibe buli kimwe kyona ekiruhanga kwiniire.
Because with God,
habwokuba na ruhanga
we can do all things.
turi hamwe na ruhanga nitubaasa kukora ebintu byona.
But if we believe the lies,
konka twamara kwikiriza ebishuba
we don't know what God is telling us that we are.
turaba tutaramanya ekiruhanga ari kutugambira ekituri.
So for me, it has been a journey. That wasn't my, that was my childhood. Then later on, I had a marriage.
Yabagambira yaruga hari ogu yaza owa sister weye.
And so the enemy tries to come back in.
Hati noreeba nekiri kugumizamu omuzigu nagezeho kuguma areegarukisa
And say, here it is again.
nagira ngu reeba nkiki hati.
And it is fighting and knowing that it is not you, that it is the other person.
Hatiya n'okujumbura okamanya ngu tiiwe kwihaho n'ondiijo muntu.
Now, for me, the biggest thing is to know what God says about you.
Nyowe habwanje n'okumanya ekiruhanga aragamba ahari inye ninga ekyaragamba ahariwe.
Because when you know that,
wamara kumanya ekiruhanga aragamba ahariwe,
you know what is truth.
noteeka omanye amazima nigaha.
Let's see. I'm trying to think how to word this. In that betrayal,
Okwo kuleebwa bamara kushaariza omutima gwe,
not only for my husband but for my sister,
ate n'obushaarizi habwa omushaija we wenka kwihaho na sister we akamwinira obushaarizi amwinira ekiniga.
because if you don't forgive, bitterness takes over.
Habwokuba otasaasiire ekiniga n'obushaarizi burakwita.
And that is definitely not an easy thing to do. You have to do it using God's word.
Tikyanguhi kusaasira konka noobaasa kukikora woona orabire omu kigambo kya Ruhanga.
Now, another thing I learned
Ekindi ekinaayegire
is who Abba Father is,
ni taata ow'omu iguru we niki ali ki.
because I divorced
Nyowe nkataana n'omushaija wanje
and I stayed single for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years.
yaguma ari wenka tiina omushaija kumara emyaka 6 ninga 5.
And a person that I knew when I was a little girl,
Omuntu ou naamanyire obu naabeire nkiri omwishiki muto,
my mom and his mom were best friends.
nyina w'ogu na nyina w'ogwe bakaba bari abanywani enkura mutima.
He was 5.
5
Reconnected.
bashuba bakwatagana
In 2014,
bakushubire bakwatagana ogu mwaka 2014. Bakashuba bakwatagana omwaka 2014.
and we started to communicate
Batandika baganira
because he had known me as a child, I had known him, and he was like a little brother to me.
tukaba turamanyana tukiri obwana buto, akaba ari nka brother wanje ndi nka sister weye, tukaherukana kumanyana tukiri bato.
I lived in Oregon.
Sorry?
Aka
aratura muri Oregon.
And he lived in Colorado.
waratura Colorado oramanya ago mahanga amazina gayo aha
He was in the military,
aratura nokwe
and he started to flirt with me.
yatandika kuganira baraganira hamwe
And I said, no, you're like my little brother.
batandika ngo baze mu byo kukundana yaje ngo inga
He said it would be nice for you to come visit.
hati yamukira ngo kikabire kirungi wisha kutayaya
And I said, no.
we yaje ngo ingaha
I went to work,
yaza gukora
and my boss tells me,
rero boss we yamukira
Laura, we need you to go to Colorado
rero boss we yamukira ngo aturora no manya turenda ngo ze Colorado ho wamusigaza ari mwijuke
and look at a venue.
ya okokwe
And I thought, okay, Lord.
yaje ngo kare mukama
I just said no, and now you're.
buli nkagira ngo tinenda kuza kureba umusigazi ko nkatori kunyoherezayo
So I went
yaza Colorado
to do my job,
okuza kora imirimo yeye yabe nakora
and I met with my friend,
rero yavugana na munywani weyo yakuzire nawe w'umusigazi
and after that, we got married a year later.
bwa nyuma batasagana
And after that, we were married for 5 years.
bwa nyuma bakatasagana kumara emyaka 5
And he was from Phoenix.
akararuga Phoenix
I was from San Diego.
araruga San Diego
And we were trying to figure out where home was going to be.
hati bagezaho kureba amaka gitu tugatenkahe
We prayed about it.
twakishabira
And the Lord led us to Oklahoma.
ruhanga yabebembera Oklahoma wezagande
We had no friends, no family.
tukasitine banywani tutine namakokwe
We get there.
twahikayo
We had bought a house that we thought we were going to spend the rest of our lives in.
twatunga enje twabantekeza ntuza kumaramwe amagara ge tugona
And 2 months later,
bwa nyuma y'emyezi 2
we both get COVID.
batunga covid bona babiri
He doesn't come home from the hospital.
wa atakabasa kuzamuka araguma mu irwariro
So I find myself in